3rd and 4, looks into the nickel of San Francisco in the secondary. Hey, somebody has run out on the field. Some goofball in a hat and a red shirt. Now he takes off the shirt. He's running down the middle by the 50. He's at the 30. He's bare-chested and banging his chest. Now he runs the opposite way. He runs to the 50. He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes. The 20. They're chasing him. They're not going to get him. Waving his arms, bare-chested. Somebody stop that man.
Here comes the blue coat,
Oh,
Kevin.
they got him.
Here comes
They're
the
coming
blue
from the
coats.
left. Oh, and they tackle him at the 40-yard line. Oh, that was the most exciting thing to happen tonight.
I tell you what, that was a...
Here is to save the day, but wrapping it up in his special way. Throw in the preview show, add some alcohol and here we go. Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman, Senor Batman.
Hola, señores, it is I, Senor Batman. Boom! It's somewhere. Oh, yes. It's Senor Batman, and I'm here for your week 1 preview show. Wait, what's that? Wait, what? What do you mean I missed the week 1 preview show? I missed the week 1 preview show? Week 1 Oh boy. I guess there was football last weekend and it was real football, and I didn't do a preview. Oops. Anyhow, well then it's the week 1 wrap up in the week 2. 1, 2 preview show. So football is back. Isn't that great? That's really good. It's fucking amazing. Like football. Yeah. Football. And fantasy football Americano is back. Who's going to win the championship this year? Well, it started last week with week 1. So, I mean, what's there more to talk about? Let's just get to the wrap-up. Wrap-up! Okay, so, here is the week 1 wrap-up, the results. Starting with last year's champion, Chronic Rosterbaiter, beating, Eat Shit and Die. What the, It's a very angry name. Not very clever either. But Chronic Rosterbaiter, 144.7 to 123.3. Eat Shit and Die is eating shit and losing. Chronic Rosterbaiter continues his streak since the championship. I mean, he won last year. Starts out to win this year. Let's see if he can keep it up, though. Next up, Peterson. Adrian Peterson versus hashtag White Receivers Matter. 131.1 to 121.1. Peterson, Adrian Peterson, gets the victory on the back of his top pick, his keeper, Antonio Brown, 28.6 points. Boom, bitch, he gets the victory. Next up, welcome to Ball Hex Pit versus Slay City Slayers. Slay City Slayers, of course, the champion from 2 years ago, takes a loss in week 1, 124.9 to 113.6. The consolation bracket freaking champion takes the victory. Here, Brandon Cooks basically just go bananas, 30.4 points. Stacey Slater's best scorer was Mohamed Sanu, who I stupidly bid 22 in my personal auction league because I was drinking too much. But regardless, he gets 18.5, which is not enough to beat Ballhacks Pate. Moving on, Rake Session, which kind of sounds like Ripe Section. Not like Ripe, but Ripe, like the bad one. But I don't know if that was what he was going for. But anyways, Rake Session versus Richmond Rush, last year's runner-up. Richmond Rush takes another loss after last year. Is it in his head? Is he thinking, man, I lost last year, and now I'm starting? But he had a good score. 129.7 is nothing to, cry about. But Rake Session had 136.5 on the back of C.J. Anderson on Thursday Night Football, 27.9 points. Now, where he did get 29.4 for Richmond Rush, but it didn't matter. Rake Session gets the victory. Moving on, it's the battle of the Sacco versus Martial Law. El Sacco gets the victory, 130.6 to 92.4. A huge victory. Martial Law looking like this year's Sacco at this point. Only person not to get above 110 points. I mean, he didn't even come close. He was about 30 points almost under that. Well, 20 points, but whatever. Who knows math anyways? Anywho, Martial Law loses. El Sacco gets the victory, and he goes in his quest of not being the Sacco. He starts out in the right direction with a high score, too. A good score. Ray Charles Moneyball versus Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Doesn't matter, you lost. 135.4 to 117.5. Ray Charles Moneyballs his way to the victory on the back of Andrew Luck's 35.5 points. D'Angelo Williams got 32.1 on Monday Night Football, but it didn't matter. It was long over, and Ray Charles Moneyball gets the victory. So that's your wrap-up for the night. Let's take a quick look at standings. It's kind of early, I understand. Division Uno, Kronk Rossbader, Peterson, Adrian Peterson. Welcome to Bullocks Pit. All 1-0. Eat Shit and Die, White Receivers Matter, and Slacy Slayers. All 0-1. Division Dos, Rick Session, Ray Charles Moneyball, and El Sacco. 1-0. Richmond Rush, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and Martial Law. All 0-1. Now, as far as points scored, we're going to sort this. Top scorer last week was Kronk Rossbader, so wins the championship last year. High scorer to start week 1. Good start off for him, especially last year when he started 0-4. So he has 144.7, highest score. Second highest score was Rake Session. Then there was Ray Charles Moneyball. Then Peterson, Adrian Peterson. Then El Sacco. Then Welcome to Then Richmond Rush. Then Welcome to Then Welcome to Bullocks Pit. Eat Shit and Die. White Receivers Matter. Slacy Slayers. And the lowest score of the week, like I was stating before, Martial Law. So basically, Slacy Slayers and Martial Law are the two leaders for the Sacco at this point. It's week 1. You know, you don't count your hatches, your eggs, and you don't count things before it's happened, but they started out pretty bad. Maybe they can rebound. But can they rebound in week 2? Well, in order to figure that out, we need to go to the preview show.
Preview show!
Alrighty then, let's get to the preview for week 2. First up, Slay City Slayers, lowest scorer in Division Uno last week, versus Kronk Rossbader, highest scorer in Division Uno last week. Well, ESPN is saying 121.1 to 116.3, Rossbader will win. So they think it's going to be a pretty close matchup, but let's take a look at a few things here. First off, if he sticks with Stafford, he's facing Tennessee, which, isn't too bad. And then he's also over on the other side, Eli Manning versus New Orleans. Now, last time New Orleans and Eli went up against each other, Eli had probably his best game of the season. So there's always a chance of a shootout when you're facing New Orleans in their defense, all that stuff. Giants got a little bit better defense this year. Oh boy, knocked my microphone over. What am I doing? It's like I'm an amateur. Anyway, that being said, looking at the overall lineup, I do think this will be a very close one. I think Slacy Slayers kind of had a bad week last week, and he still decently scored. It wasn't like a terrible score. But also, Kronk Rossbader had Vikings D, who had 21 points. They had 2 touchdowns. So, you take about, let's say, 10 points away from that, or more like 11, 10, somewhere in that range. He's back down from 144 to about like 134, and, Todd Gurley's facing Seattle. So I'm going to actually say that Kronk Rossbader gets the victory, but it's going to come down to that Monday Night Football game with Alshon Jeffrey. I think that's what's really going to come down to it. If Jeffrey can pull it out and Eagles defense doesn't do anything too crazy, it's going to be Eagles D on Slacy Slayer's side. On the other side for Rossbader, he's going to have to count on Jeffrey. So I think it's going to come down to Monday night for sure. I don't think it'll be decided by that point. Moving on, Eat Shit and Die versus White Receivers Matter. Now, both teams lost last week. Both teams scored relatively well last week. Unfortunately for Eat Shit and Die, Keenan Allen got hurt, done for the year. It's really unfortunate. It really sucks. As a fantasy person, when you're a fan of fantasy football like I am, you don't want to see anyone have to deal with that. Now, how he deals with that will determine what actually happens here. So let's take a look. Now, Winston's facing Arizona. Garoppolo didn't do too bad last week against them. But Newton against San Francisco. San Francisco looked pretty good on defense last week, even though they were facing the Rams. So is it the Rams are terrible? Or is it the other way around, and it was like, no, the Niners are actually pretty good. Now, looking at something else, Charles, they're saying he's questionable at this point. So if Charles plays and is, Jamal Charles and plays pretty good, I imagine he'll start him over like Forsett. Probably, I would imagine Forsett would be the one guy he would do it with. That could maybe change things. But as of right now, I think Eat, Shit, and Die, which is Luke Bartos. I forget what his name was last year. Turd Ferguson, I think, or something? Yeah. Turd Ferguson. Yeah. I missed that already. But anywho, Eat, Shit, and Die, I think we'll get the victory. I know that they're picking against what they're saying. They're saying that wide receivers batter gets the victory, but I just look at his team, and I just think he's stacked with players. I mean, Winston, Doug Martin, Matt Forte, A.J. Green, Dez Bryant. Dez Bryant had a bad week last week. Against the Washington Redskins, I don't think that happens again. Jared Cook, he probably needs a tight end. That's, Cook isn't doing shit. Melvin Gordon, he did good last week. I mean, he's got a good team. He's got a really good team, and if you were to ask me, hey, what's one team you think that's going to be probably in the playoffs, I would say his team because he's built top to bottom. Now, Keenan Allen didn't get hurt. He'd be really, tearing shit up. But I think he gets the victory this week, in week 2. Moving on to Richmond Rush versus Ray Charles Moneyball. Ray Charles Moneyball has never made it to the playoffs in this league. In the league before this, yes, he did make this. When I used to cover the Chicago's Finest League, he won that league the last year. But that league doesn't matter anymore because it's not part of my league's history. I was a hired gun. I was a freelancer for that league. This is my league. It's a new league that's been going. Now, this will be the 4th season. So, Ray Charles Moneyball has never won or even made the playoffs in my league. Richmond Rush, runner-up last year. Now, they are projecting Richmond Rush to beat Ray Charles Moneyball 117.6 to 106.8. They are really expecting him to get the victory. And I got to agree. Because Luck's facing Denver. Denver is a lot harder defense to deal with compared to, who he faced last week, the Detroit Lions. Not to mention, over here he's got Aaron Rodgers versus Minnesota defense. Now, Minnesota is a good defense. I'm not taking anything away from them. I just don't think that, Rodgers is not the same as, who they faced last week, Mariota. I think Rodgers is a really good quarterback. Now, here's where the one kind of questionable part comes into this. Spencer Ware. Will he play? If Charles is out, Ware, I think, gives him the victory. If Charles is in, I might start to think that Ray Charles Moneyball gets the victory. Because I think that really comes down to Ware. If Ware's getting the workload like he did last week, then yeah, absolutely. He's going to get some good points against that Houston D. I mean, Jeremy Langford ran pretty well against them, and he's not even really that great. So, that being said, Barnage now with RG3 hurt, the guy that used to throw to him a shit ton is now the quarterback. Boom. So that'll help him. I think Richmond Rush last week had a bad week, and he still scored really good. So I think Richmond Rush gets the victory, but Spencer, I'd say keep an eye on Spencer Ware. If he gets hurt, I would say that maybe, just maybe, Ray Charles Moneyball pulls out the victory. Moving on, Peterson, Adrian Peterson versus Welcome to Bullhex Pit. They are saying Bullhex Pit will get the victory. Well, here's the problem I have with that. They are projecting Russell Wilson to get 18 points against LA if he plays. Now, he is questionable. If he plays, then that's one thing. Now, he'll probably play, but he's hurt. So, you look over on this side, he's not hurt. So, what I'm going to say is, Woodhead, he is starting this week against Jacksonville. He's got some really good players in here. He does. But I also think that Adrian Peterson has some great players. But I will have to agree, Welcome to Black's Pit will get the victory, but it will be a nail-biter. I mean, they will both be like, the whole freaking day on Sunday. Now, I don't think either of them, do any of them have Eagles? Let's see, Eagles or Bears? Eagles or Chicago Bears? Eagles or Chicago Bears? Yes, there is one. Jordan Matthews. This matchup probably will come down to him. Jordan Matthews for Boax Pitt. My guess is that Adrian Peterson, will be ahead, probably by, let's say, 7 or 8 points. He'll need Jordan Matthews to come up big. We'll say 10. Let's just say 10 to make it an easy number. Moving on. El Sacco's quest to redeem himself. He's got Johnny Cash with the middle finger. He's saying, fuck you, everyone. I ain't being a Sacco ever again. He's facing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I'll spare you the song. Now, we need to look at something here. Where is your bench? Why won't it show your bench? All right. Well, anywho, they are projecting right now 113 to 100.7 that El Sacco will go on his 2-game winning streak. And I got to agree. Drew Brees last year, just like Eli Manning, when he faced the Giants, went bananas. Now, granted, Giants defense is better than last year, but it doesn't mean they're not apt to a shootout. Arian Foster, he's kind of dealing with a hamstring injury. Kind of don't like that matchup versus New England. Blount versus Miami could be okay. Julio Jones versus Oakland, I do like that matchup, especially after last week. Oakland just seemed it was just a shootout. Matt Marshall, I think, will bounce back against Buffalo. Dwayne Allen versus Denver, I think that could work out for him. I don't know if I'd start Michael Thomas. He hasn't really done shit, but if that does turn into a shootout, you never know. Will Fuller, he's a stud. He's proved it already. Week 1, he came out and said, look how good I am. I think he'll do it again in week 2. Matt Prater, kicker. Over at the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, he's got Blake Bortles starting this week instead of Derek Carr, which makes sense because his name is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, not Teenage Mutant Ninja Carr. So, makes sense. D'Angelo Williams against Cincinnati. D'Angelo Williams is the best running back in football as of week 1. So, can't complain about that. Hill, he's or He either does great or he does nothing. Jarvis Landry against New England. Should have to be passing a lot, so I imagine Landry will have a bunch of catches. Same thing with Eric Decker. He does not have a tight end right now because Zach Ertz is out. Well, doubtful, but he will probably be out. Macklin, Yeldon, Cardinals D. So, this is really kind of tough. But, like I said, I think El Sacco will continue the winning streak. But this is going to be another one that I think just comes down to it right at the end of the ball game. I don't think, neither of them have anyone on Monday night, so maybe it'll come down to Sunday Night Football, depending. I don't know if they have anyone there. I forget what the Sunday Night Football game is, but I will give this victory to El Sacco. Then you've got Rake Session versus Martial Law. They are projecting Martial Law to get the victory, 119.8 to 119.1. That's probably because Sammy Watkins and Demaryius Thomas both dealing with injuries, both probably going to play. Now, over here, Devontae Freeman and Rob Gronkowski both hurt. Is Gronk going to play? He was a limited participant Wednesday, so as long as all things look good, I would imagine he's going to play. So, this is a tough one. I got to be honest. This is a really tough one. They're projecting 17.8 over here for Kirk Cousins against Dallas. I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, they kept Eli pretty even keel, like pretty low score for what you were probably expecting. So, I don't know. Ooh, this is a tough one to pick. He's got Terrell Pryor in there. He's got so many good players that could blow up. But I just can't deny that I think this team over here is just a little bit better. It'll probably come down to Jeremy Langford if I had to guess. But I'm going to give the victory to Rake Session. Rake Session with the victory. So that's basically it. Rake Session with the victory. Now you're like, wait, where's your upset of the week? Well, there's no upsets. It's kind of early, I feel like, to pick an upset of the week. If you want, I guess your upset of the week would be, let's see here. which be no, I didn't pick that. I guess it would be Eat Shit and Die is my upset of the week because I picked him to beat Mr. Rick Pucci, which is Wide Receivers Matter. So that's basically it. Let's I guess that's basically it. Let's pull up this, switch to here so you can see my beautiful mask in my head. But that's it. Week 1 wrapped up. Week 2 previewed. I hope you enjoyed the show. Good luck to everyone this week. I hope no one else gets any injured players. But if you do, I hope you figure it out and get to move forward. And, maybe if you pull off the victory. I mean, that'd be cool. You have a player go down and all of a sudden you're like, fuck, I'm screwed. And then all of a sudden you still win. You're like, I didn't need that asshole anyways. So, that'd be cool, right? So, that's all I have for this week. I will see you next week with the Week 2 wrap-up, Week 3 preview show. 1, 2, 3. Until then, adios!